The Veterans Crisis Line is at the forefront of combating veteran suicide, as you all know, as trained responders available to any veteran, service member, or family member 24 hours a day. This hearing demonstrates that the VA's ability to improve its resource and operation relies on independent bodies like the Inspector General and the Government Accountability Office, as well as unbreakable protections for whistleblowers to enable VA employees to sound the alarm on waste, fraud, and abuse.
Hey Patriots, welcome back to the channel where we cut through the noise and bring you the truth. No sugarcoating, no media spin. Today we're reacting to a recent Senate floor speech that's been making the rounds. It features a Democrat senator going on an emotional rant. Yes, I said rant, over the GOP's latest healthcare and tax reform bill. She brings up a young girl named Vivian, talks about Medicaid, throws around numbers, and spends the rest of her time demonizing billionaires and blaming Republicans for what she calls cruelty.
I want to express my personal regret that VA Inspector General Mike Missel is not here as a witness. He was fired, along with 18 other inspectors general, after performing with huge distinction and honor over different presidents, Republican and Democratic, and saving taxpayers billions of dollars. The Trump administration, unfortunately, has also attacked the Nonpartisan Government Accountability Office and is working full-time to demoralize and frighten whistleblowers by invalidating collective bargaining agreements, requiring senior leaders to sign NDAs, politicizing independent watchdogs, and overhauling hiring requirements to force public servants to declare loyalty to President Trump, not to the Constitution. These actions, along with the lack of transparency and accountability from this VA and this administration, make meaningful oversight of VA programs like the Veterans Crisis Line extremely challenging. The GAO and IG reports that we are discussing today show that the Veterans Crisis Line needs more resources, more staffing, more investment into technology. These recommendations demonstrably conflict with the ongoing mismanagement of the department by Secretary Collins and this administration. There is a practical relevance and importance to the GAO report that we have today that is indisputable. In the first phase of illegal firings, the Veterans Crisis Line employees, including those who conduct advanced training for responders, were fired without warning. Secretary Collins also fired at least 9 staff at one Veterans Crisis Line call center who were responsible for locating veterans actively in crisis and coordinating in-person emergency response in coordination with Veterans Crisis Line responders. Secretary Collins reversed these findings, but not before weeks passed. And the administration has provided 0 answers, none, regarding the Veterans Crisis Line and other suicide prevention efforts that will be impacted by Secretary Collins' goal of terminating an additional 83,000 VA employees in the coming months. That is his plan. We've had testimony about it, but we have no specifics, no facts, especially as concerned the Veterans Crisis Line. My office, regrettably and tragically sometimes, continues to hear from Veterans Crisis Line and VHA staff that these reduction in force plans have led to significant increases in call volumes to the Veterans Crisis Line from veterans who fear they're going to be fired. And the reason is, quite simply, that of those 83,000 employees that Secretary Collins he's going to fire, a quarter to a third of them are veterans whose lives are about to be decimated. And so, of course, they're calling the Veterans Crisis Line at a time when it is about to be potentially decimated as well. Secretary Collins ordered in February that all Veterans Crisis Line employees return to office, quote, return to office, as part of the mandate set by President Trump. Employees were brought to offices that they never previously occupied. The offices were ill-equipped. They lacked the necessary privacy for calls of this kind of sensitivity. Some Veterans Crisis Line employees simply left. They figured they had no future there, and they lacked the resources to do their jobs in a way they thought necessary. And then Secretary Collins reversed the return to office decision for Veterans Crisis Line employees as well. So I think we can do better. I think we must do better. Veterans Crisis Lines save lives. They literally save lives. And to ping pong these employees is, in my view, disgraceful and a disservice to all our veterans. Part of a trash and slash strategy that was originated and implemented by the Doge tech bros. They're still around, even though Elon Musk has left, and the effects have been catastrophic for the Veterans Crisis Line. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now look, I'm not here to mock a child's story. Vivian sounds like a great kid, and God bless her. No child should have to struggle with health issues. But this speech wasn't about Vivian. It was about pushing a bigger narrative, one that ignores basic economics, personal responsibility, and the real intentions behind conservative reform. Let's break it down. Democrats love to lead with emotions because it's easy to tug heartstrings when you don't have the facts on your side. They find one sad story, and yes, it is sad, and they use it to try and shut down debate. But policy isn't about one person. It's about 330 million Americans. If you make every policy decision based on a single anecdote, you'll bankrupt the country in a year. Compassion is important, but it's got to be paired with logic and sustainability. The senator says Republicans are ripping away health care. That's false. What we're trying to do is reform a bloated, wasteful system. Medicaid was designed to help the most vulnerable, not to become a catch-all entitlement program for political points. Right now, Medicaid is full of fraud, waste, and people who don't qualify, draining the resources meant for those who do, like Vivian. If we don't restructure it, there won't be a Medicaid left for her generation. That 17 million number? It's a scare tactic. That's based on estimates assuming nobody buys private insurance once they have the option. It also counts people voluntarily choosing not to carry insurance because the government isn't forcing them anymore. Freedom includes the freedom to opt out. That's not cruelty. That's called liberty. Let's talk about the so-called tax cuts for billionaires. The truth? Those cuts are also for small businesses, family farms, job creators. You know, people who employ millions of Americans. When you slash taxes, you stimulate the economy. More jobs, higher wages, more freedom for Americans to choose their health care, not have it dictated by bureaucrats. The left wants you to believe every CEO is hoarding cash in a yacht. In reality, that money gets reinvested into factories, hiring, innovation. The senator defends the CFPB like it's some noble institution. But patriots, you and I know, it's an unelected, unaccountable arm of government overreach. It's been weaponized for years to punish conservative businesses and banks. Cutting its funding is a win for liberty and fairness. The senator defends the CFPB like it's some noble institution. But patriots, you and I know, it's an unelected, unaccountable arm of government overreach. It's been weaponized for years to punish conservative businesses and banks. Cutting its funding is a win for liberty and fairness. Another fear tactic. Biggest cut to food assistance in history. Look, America spends billions every year on food stamps. We're not slashing benefits for the needy. We're tightening the rules for able-bodied adults without dependents. If you can work, you should work. Period. She claims 1 in 4 nursing homes would shut down. Again, no data, no source, just doom and gloom. Do you think Republicans want to send your grandma into the street? Of course not. But we do want states to manage healthcare locally instead of relying on a broken federal system. This senator says budgets reflect values. I agree. And here's what we value: individual responsibility, a strong economy, freedom to choose your doctor, your plan, your future, local control, fiscal discipline. What we don't believe in is creating a nanny state where the government pretends to love you while drowning you in taxes and red tape. This entire speech was designed to keep Americans afraid of losing government aid, afraid of billionaires, afraid of choice. But we want to empower Americans, get the government out of the way and let people rise on their own. That's the American dream, not waiting on a check. The senator accuses us of cruelty, but I say this: what's cruel is racking up $35 trillion in debt and handing our children the bill. What's cruel is forcing middle-class families to pay more while the government wastes billions. What's cruel is pretending that government knows what's best for your family more than you do. Republicans aren't the enemy. We're the only ones trying to fix this mess before it collapses completely. So if you're tired of emotional manipulation and ready for real reform, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Let's take back the narrative. Let's speak truth to power. Let's defend America with common sense, not crying sessions on the Senate floor. Until next time, patriots, stay bold, stay free, and never apologize for loving this country. God bless.